Hey everyone, I'm Armor Gaming, welcome back to my channel and welcome to Monster Analysis. Up for analysis today is a legendary metal monster known as Terroriser, a monster so impressive that all of his opponents look like choir boys next to him. He's a machine of killing, a governor of assassins. He's a Terroriser. Half man, half machine, pretty cool monster in my opinion. Let's check out his stats. Terroriser has a power of 3,498. Now when we're talking about metal legendary monsters, this doesn't look like a high power. In fact, out of the 19 legendary metal monsters, this puts him in 9th place. And even though he's very far down in the list, this is still an extremely high power. The problem is that lots of metal monsters have a power of 3,575 or 3,542. There's really a chunk full of them that have that power. So overall, Terroriser's power is really good, just when you look at metal monsters, it doesn't look to be that good. His life is 28,350, which just like his power puts him in 9th place. There's plenty of metal monsters that not only pack a big punch, they also have a really tanky life. But for Terroriser, his life is more in the middle. As for his speed, he has 3,388. Which makes him tied for 11th place, along with monsters like Dad Unit, Octex, Timerion, and M2 Wyvern. So he's on the slower end of metal legendary monsters. As for his trait, he is immune to magnetizing, gives immunity to magnetism, which may or may not be good considering who you ask. Just about every metal monster has a skill that can magnetize, which makes that monster weak to metal attacks, so being a metal monster with immune to magnetizing can come in handy, but for me personally, I would prefer a trait like immune to stun or hardened. Anyways, let's move on to his default and special skills. We have Terroriser Headbutt, Terroriser Shotgun, and Devastate. Deals massive metal damage to all enemies, may make all targets bleed. This is a metal based AoE that deals 70 damage and it gives bleeding to all of the enemy monsters. Now if you've seen my other analysis videos, you know that I'm normally not a fan of elemental based special attacks because it's better to be special based as opposed to some sort of elements, but when we're speaking about metal monsters, it's actually good that his ultimate is metal based because Terroriser has a skill that magnetizes all of the enemy monsters. So if you were to use that skill and then use Devastate afterwards, you can pretty much imagine that you would completely wipe out the whole enemy monster team. And if for any reason any of the enemy monsters were to live, you would give those monsters bleeding, which no monster is immune to, and bleeding reduces that monster's life by 10% for the following 4 turns, as well as reduces their power by 20%. So Terroriser does have a really good special. So really quickly I'm going to breeze through his skills group 1 skills. We have shoot target, wound target, shoot all enemies. From these 3 skills there's nothing too special, so we're moving on to skills group 2. And we start things off with injured target. Deals heavy special damage, may make target bleed, requires cooldown. This skill deals 50 damage to a single enemy, it costs 28 stamina, and it has a 2-turn cooldown. For an attacker, 50 damage isn't necessarily too high. It does give bleeding, which is nice and would probably only come in handy if you're going up against a really tanky monster. And most often you find tanky monsters in the earth category. For example, if you're going up against an Oros, you would want injured target, which would easily cut away at his life. Now because the skill would primarily work when you're going up against tanky monsters, I can't really recommend it because for example, if it was a team wars involving metal and earth, I probably wouldn't recommend you use Terroriser. You'd probably want to use someone like Timerion, someone who has the equalizer skill that can just easily shrink Oros' life in 1 turn. So because of that, I can't recommend you to run injured target. Moving on, we have more precision. Deals very heavy metal damage, gains precision, requires cooldown. So you deal 60 damage to a single enemy, it costs 31 stamina, and it only has a 1-turn cooldown. As an added benefit, this skill gives you increased accuracy by 50%, which is pretty great because after you use more precision, you can use your AoE skill. So let's talk about the other skills and then we'll come back to more precision. His following skills: weaken targets, deals low special damage to all enemies, may magnetize all targets, requires cooldown. So it's an AoE dealing 30 damage, costs 35 stamina, and it has a 3-turn cooldown. And this is the skill I was talking about that would combo really well with your ultimate, but this also combos with another skill. And it's just your typical AoE magnetizing skill. It's nice that it's a special based AoE that magnetizes as opposed to being a metal based AoE that magnetizes, just because you get that extra damage in on that metal monster. You're definitely going to want to run weakened targets. Moving down to skills group 3, we have hard headshot. Deals massive special damage, requires cooldown. You deal 70 damage to a single enemy, it costs 28 stamina, and it only has a low 1-turn cooldown. So I'm a huge fan of this skill because it deals massive special damage, not metal damage. So especially if you're using this monster against a metal monster, of course you can do your AoE magnetizing to magnetize the enemy metal monster, and then follow that up with a metal based attack, or you could probably just do hard headshot and finish off that monster in 1 turn, which is definitely possible because this monster has such a high power and hard headshot is a 70 damage skill. So if you just give him some strength runes, he can definitely do that. Hard headshot is a really great skill in my opinion. Moving on, we have multi-kill. Deals moderate metal damage to all enemies. It's an AoE skill dealing 45 damage, it costs 36 stamina, and surprisingly it has no cooldown. Now we normally don't see this. We normally don't see a 45 damage AoE skill with no cooldown. So this is definitely great, and again, this is going to combo really well with weakened targets. You start off the game by doing weakened targets, you magnetize all of the enemy monsters, and you follow that up with multi-kill, and it really is going to be a multi-kill. You're going to wipe out the whole enemy team. That's a combo you can do with almost every metal attacker. Now, because that combo exists, because you can do weakened targets and multi-kill, and that will like 99% of the time wipe out the whole enemy team, I really don't care too much that it does have a 0 turn cooldown, because the enemy monsters won't be alive after turn 2. Still, this is pretty cool, because if you ever go up against a Timerion, and Timerion starts the game off with cooldowns activated, you'll at least be able to do multi-kill, seriously damage the enemy attacker, and also damage the third monster, and on the following turn you'll probably be able to do multi-kill again to wipe out the enemy attacker, and the third monster if it's not wiped out already. Or because Terroriser has low 1 cooldown skills, you can just finish them off with hard headshot, so you definitely want to run multi-kill. His last skill from skills group 3 is more power. Deals heavy special damage, gains double damage, requires cooldown. So this skill deals 50 damage to a single enemy, it costs 28 stamina, and it has a 3 turn cooldown, and this skill gives you double damage. So for those of you saying this monster is so powerful because he can do more power and weaken targets and then multi-kill, yes, that's definitely true, he can do that, however it takes way too long to set up. I maintain that as soon as you do weaken targets and multi-kill, chances are you're wiping out the whole enemy team. Heck, if you do multi-kill twice, chances are you're wiping out the whole enemy team. More power isn't necessarily needed, however it is nice to have. So my recommended skill set for this monster is weaken target, multi-kill, and hard headshot. For the final skill, it's either going to be up to you. Do you want to run more precision or do you want to run more power? One benefit of running more precision is that if you start the game off with weakened targets and you magnetize all the enemy monsters, then more precision would probably deal even more damage than hard headshot would deal. It'll definitely deal more damage than more power. However, one drawback to running more precision is that you can't guarantee that the enemy metal monster will be able to be magnetized. For example, you saw that Terroriser is immune to magnetizing. There's quite a few of other metal monsters that are also immune to magnetization. However, one advantage of running a metal based attack is that if you're going up against light monsters, you have that elemental advantage over them. As for more power, the great thing about this skill is that it helps you set up for a future attack. Can you imagine doing more power on one enemy monster and then following that up with hard headshot or multi-kill? That is definitely going to deal some insane damage. Multi-kill might as well be 90 damage, hard headshot might as well be 140, so that can seriously be really powerful. So at the end of the day, it's up to you. Again, my recommendation, weaken targets, multi-kill, hard headshot. Most of the time you'll probably only need weakened targets and multi-kill. Hard headshot is there in case you want to take out the enemy metal monster in one hit. More precision has advantages and disadvantages. Advantage is really quick, gives you increased accuracy. You have the elemental advantage over light monsters. More power's main advantage is that it helps you set up for the following turn, especially giving you that double damage. So it's up to you guys. Terroriser is an attacker, so for runes, you probably want to run 2 strength runes and 1 speed rune. Depending on what level you are, what kind of opponents you're facing in player versus player or team wars, you could probably get away with 3 strength runes. The only time you need that 1 speed rune on your attacker is when your opponent starts using level 8, 9, and 10 runes, so if they're anything below that, you can put 3 strength runes on them if you want to. And with that being said, that is going to conclude my analysis on Terroriser. I do think he's a great addition to metal legendary monsters. He's certainly going to be good in team wars, specifically when you need a metal attacker, not a metal immobilizer obviously. And now, like always, I want to hear from all of you. What do you guys think about this monster? Do you think he's good? Do you think he's not so good? How do you think he matches up against the other metal legendary monsters? Like always, let me know in the comments below. Also, be sure to let me know who you want me to analyze next. With all that being said, I hope everyone has a great amazing day or a great amazing night. Remember to dream big and pursue your passions.